Hey, Alex,
Yes, sir.
do you think that bi men face the same sort of erasure that bi women do?
Bi men. If I knew any bi men, I'd ask them.
Welcome to Mistakes Were Made, a podcast about non-monogamy for messy people like us. I'm Sarah. I'm a queer therapist, parent, writer, and activist.
And I'm her co-host, Alex. I'm also a queer parent, activist, musician, magician, mortician. Okay, not the last two, but all the other ones.
You're a magician now? You just came out as bi, and now you're coming out as a magician on air?
Two things really go together, I think.
Okay, before we get into the episode,
Yes.
we want to talk about our workshop.
Yeah.
We have a workshop. It's coming up on March 21st.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're still deep in winter right now, and it's hard to imagine that it would ever be like the beginning of spring and you'd be thinking about new relationships and dating and picnics by the lake with your many partners. But you will. We'll be there. And we want to offer a workshop for that energy on March 21st. And Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about what this workshop is and
It's
why
like
people should come?
If you're just delving into polyamory, opening a relationship, maybe having some struggles around that, we are going to bring a small group of people together and do some hands-on activities to work through. I shouldn't have said hands-on.
Just disambiguate there. We mean hands-on in a metaphorical sense. The hands-on workshops.
Feelings-on workshops
are different.
This is all legal, where we will discuss some of those challenges, some of the frequent things that come up early on in opening relationships, and based on some of our experiences, as well as Sarah's fantastic expertise as a very renowned relationship therapist. I'm sorry, that sounded sarcastic, but
it really did.
You know what?
Very
People are
renowned.
clamoring to get into Sarah's practice as clients, so this is a way to get a little taste of what Sarah has to offer in that realm as well. When you'd be on the wait list to see her as a regular client for quite some time.
Thanks for the plug. But seriously, I'm really excited about this. I think this is one of my favorite groups of people to work with. I have specialized in my practice in working with queer, polyamorous populations, and also especially with folks who are moving from monogamy to non-monogamy. So I'm really excited to be able to do that outside of the office and in a small group, sort of intimate setting. So I can't wait.
Here in Seattle. So follow the link in our bio, etc., and you can sign up for that.
Okay, I can't wait to see you all there. Today we're talking about the bi-male experience in polyamory, and our guest is Quinn, who is many things, including a musician, a small-town Indiana boy, and a bisexual poly man. Hi, Quinn.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I wanted to do this episode in part just to talk about some of the experiences I have had in being out as bi relatively recently and moving in poly spaces, kind of what that means in polyamory, and maybe moving in some swinger spaces too. And Quinn and I met recently and have had a lot of interesting things to talk about in that realm, and I just wanted to get a shared perspective, in part because we were joking about up top, it's I don't know a lot of out bi men, maybe at least who present the way that we do, and where who had the maybe the journey or experience of being kind of straight as norm, and then discovering their bisexuality a little bit.
Passing.
Yeah, for
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
And you mean who present like us? You mean mask?
Yeah, present.
Correct.
I would say I don't know if you could say, but we present straight, sort of we could pass as straight, and I usually do.
Yeah.
Although
I do too. People are sometimes surprised
Yeah.
to hear that I am bisexual.
Even with these mustaches. Even with these matching ginger mustaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sitting across from each other, people are still surprised.
I don't. You know what? For me, the mustache came first, and that was kind of the gateway in some ways. So
That's like
there's a
how I
lot of-
started French tucking my shirt. And then that's how I came out as bi.
I think I have noticed, I think in the last 2 years of when I've actually started to embrace, being bisexual, that I tell people and I get a lot more of, oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
And it's reassuring. It's validating to me. I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I am. Thank you.
Yeah.
When I came out and people were like, "Oh, you weren't out?" And I'm like,
Yes,
right."
yeah. Nice.
Right. Did straight people say that, or only queer people? Probably.
Uh,
Queer people were like, it's been obvious the whole time.
Yeah,
so,
I mean-
You're like, honey.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, well, so just to kind of, we're already alluding to it, but maybe to dive in a little bit more, would you two be up for talking about your journey in being bisexual, being out to yourself and to others?
Yeah.
Start anyway.
Yeah, you go first.
You want me to go first? Yeah. So I think, so I am 31 and I did not really come to terms with the fact that I was bisexual maybe until 27 or 28. And even, when I was 28 or 27, I don't think I, fully felt comfortable calling myself a bisexual man until maybe a year ago at like 30. Going, back to my childhood, I grew up in, small town Indiana where, we knew who the two gay people were in town and everybody talked about it. So it was perceived as wrong. So I grew up in that like society where it was wrong to be gay, and I didn't agree with it, but I didn't know how to talk about it. So I just tried not to feel stuff and tried not to ask questions. I think the movie that made me realize, there's two movies, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen that. It's a very religious movie.
I want to see it now.
But there's part of the movie where it's like all the men basically wearing Speedos and dancing and singing. And when my parents would leave, I would watch that on repeat because it was hot. And then Shark Boy and Lava Girl was another awakening for me.
Really?
Because they were both attractive to me. I was like, I have a crush on both of them. And I think that's when I was like, I don't know, I didn't realize what was happening. It was very normal to me to have these feelings. But then then going out into school and hearing that that's not kosher, I didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on.
You were like, you guys don't think Shark Boy's hot?
Yeah. You guys don't watch
I'm
men
sorry.
in Speedos on repeat when your parents leave the house? Like I ruined that VCR thing. Just and then my first experience ever with a man was unfortunately like a teacher student. I got groomed pretty much. It was I've thought a lot about how I talk about this because I've only told like 2 or 3 people in my entire life, but I was in marching band and our drill instructor was like a 50-year-old gay man who basically took me under his wing and taught me a lot about Buddhism. So it's like a lot of the way that I think and about life and myself is because of this man, and I love him for that. But like a week after I turned 18, he came on to me pretty hard. And I was so curious that I was like, yes, we can try this. So he got me a job working for a high school teaching the low brass section for marching band. And at the time I was in a tent behind the band director's house because it was like 3 hours away from my house. And like I said, he came on to me pretty hard and asked to come into my tent, and stuff happened. And I think I was just kind of, I didn't fawn, I didn't like freeze. Like I wanted it. And I just was unaware at the time to like fully realize kind of like what was happening. So that was kind of like where I realized I was like, ooh, I liked that. I'm into it. And then it took me, 15 years, I think, to come to terms with like that actual situation. And then that paused my bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
I paused basically in having relationships with men. And then I went on a work trip where I was gone for about 6 months, and I work in a very like male dominated field. And I was gone for 6 months, and I was horny, and I was like, I got curious again, and I ended up meeting up with a guy, and we had to sneak into his room because his roommate was there, and it was another fun experience that I, really enjoyed. And then I just kind of, the first experience happened, and then that experience happened. And that was, I think the first experience happened, at 18. And then the second experience happened, I think I just turned 21. And then from 21 to 27, I just kind of ignored it and didn't think about it. And because I think I was still dealing with a lot of the trauma from when I was, a kid.
Yeah.
So
That's such a confusing experience to have.
it is.
And I think about how sexual repression and homophobia make people more vulnerable to exploitation and abuse, because it creates this sense of like shame and secrecy and hiding around sex and sexuality and desire that then people who are predatory can take advantage of.
Yes.
And I think that's counter to a lot of conservative or kind of homophobic narratives about grooming,
Yeah.
where people think like, oh, this happens more in the gay community, or it's somehow like a feature of the gay community. And it's like, no, there are predators in every community, and they prey on secrecy and shame. So whether that is related to being gay or just sex and sexuality and desire in general, that's how it works.
That makes so much sense, and I'm glad you said that, because like a literal bell just went off in my head. I have that guy blocked now because we continued, conversation, and like we had fun. Like on his birthday, I would send him nudes because he liked it, and we would have really deep conversations. And it got to the point where he was, I don't think, saying, "Hey, I want to tell you a secret, and it's something that's like deep for me, and I don't want you to tell anybody." Like, I don't think keeping secrets like that is a bad thing, but it got to the point where every conversation we had, he was basically telling me like, "Hey, don't tell your wife, don't tell your partner about this. Like, this is just ours." And it, like, kind of what you said, it felt very like it was such a secretive thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I had to, without even saying anything, I just blocked him on everything, which was hard for me, I think. But
because that like red flag, that yellow flag was coming up for you.
yeah.
And I was even thinking about that with your experience of identifying that you are attracted to men when you were younger.
Yeah.
And I remember experiences like that too when I was a little kid. And at first I thought that was normal. I was just like, oh, everybody must feel this way
Yes.
about all genders of people, and I'm just normal.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get those overarching messages that there's something wrong with same-sex attraction, essentially.
Yes.
And then I think I internalized that to be like, oh, maybe everybody feels this way, but you're supposed to suppress this part of you, and you're allowed to express this part.
Yeah.
Which was like this weird sort of, I don't know, like split that I think happened for me.
Yeah. I definitely had like this like 3-4 year term where like I just thought I was an ally that had sucked a dick and just didn't like it. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just a really good ally. Like, such a good ally.
I try very hard to be an ally.
Especially after I've had a drink or two. I am a killer ally. What about for you, Alex? You up for talking a little bit about your
Sure. Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, I feel like maybe a little, well, more recent probably, and maybe a little more like, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting you were talking about like the environment that you grew up in, and like, homophobia in that environment. And like, I grew up here in Seattle in a very like liberal environment, where when I was a kid, my friends had my parents had one very gay friend who was like an out gay man, and he and I like he was definitely like paid attention to me in a different kind of way. And like that experience, it's nothing like what you were describing really, but like it was interesting just like being in an environment where there was more kind of acceptance of homosexuality and like it was like somewhat normalized, but still a milieu of like absolute homophobia in like social circles and like among friends. And there was just like this feeling that like you guys were saying that like it was really to be avoided, right? And there's so much like socializing and like policing that like young men do, I guess, to, you know, to establish themselves as not gay, right? And it's like the butt of a joke and stuff like that. So like definitely like internalizing a lot of that stuff and just kind of being like, I'm just not gonna like look at that for fear of what kind of might be there.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's just like been a very long journey of kind of like, you know, being in environments where there are a lot of gay men and homosexuality is like normalized, but it's just like not for me. And you don't want to like cross that line, I guess, to getting more comfortable with myself and my sexuality and like sex in general. And then being in more like kind of like sex positive environments and then being like, oh, this is okay. And I guess that there's another piece of it maybe that like, and I'm sorry, this is like very intellectual, I guess, but that is like moving through a feeling of like competition with men and like some of the stuff just about like wanting to be like really good in contrast to like toxic masculinity, that like I had to kind of like move through that feeling of like so many men are like this and I don't want to like be like that, so I'm going to distance myself, to like moving to a place of compassion about that and like wanting to understand men better. And then I feel like that is kind of the thing that opened the door for the attraction part.
So just to make sure I kind of am tracking what you're saying, that for you, you struggled so much with the hegemonic, like toxic masculinity culture that you kind of distanced yourself from men. Generally and broadly, and didn't have any opportunity to, or didn't let yourself have opportunities to be intimate emotionally or even on a non-romantic or sexual level.
Yeah, because men suck.
Yeah. Well, and there's like, that's an expression of like, I think kind of self-hatred too.
Yes, exactly.
And you can't like be attracted to somebody if what all you see in them is like the things that you don't like about yourself.
Projecting,
yeah. And then, you know, I think when I got the chance to like open my heart a little bit more to that, and like, you know, I started a sort of conversation support group for like queer curious men a couple years ago, really before I had like had very much like actual physical experience in that realm. And I think just like creating a space where a bunch of men were sort of like trying to talk about these things and seeing how many other men were like just experiencing the same thing of like confusion and, you know, sort of wanting to inhabit their queer identity but not being able to, and also just like being surrounded with like a culture of queerness that was really inclusive, maybe also like was helpful to me. Like, you know, a lot of my life is my social circle is like queer women, and just like seeing the
congratulations.
I did want to touch on that too. Moving to the Pacific Northwest was such a jarring experience for me because of that, you know, openness. Or I think I got a taste of it in Colorado. You know, started to see more pride flags, you know, but when I was like, when I tell people I lived in New York, I lived in like, I was 45 minutes away from Canada and New York. So
we're talking New York State.
We're talking like the red part of New York State, right? Not the blue part. So just coming out here and seeing, you know, the openness made me more comfortable to like get into my thoughts and feelings and try to express myself for who I thought I really was. And get to explore that. So
and then just like kind of feeling like you can, and that because there's also that like imposter syndrome piece of it, like which I still feel quite a bit, like just like there's a voice in my head even right now that's like, should I be talking about this and like owning like having this identity, have I like done enough to justify it, kind of. But I think the culture of queerness in Seattle, or in the circles that we run in, which, like I said, is like mostly kind of led by women, is very inclusive and very like not not binary, very fluid.
Yeah.
And that really opens a lot of doors to like accepting what your own feelings and desires might be, or it has for me.
Yeah. And I have a partner that, at the time when this was happening 5-6 years ago, is attracted to very masculine people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sending some what I thought was very cute photos that had a more feminine touch. And they basically were like, hey, you should do that different because, like that was girly.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like I had a lot to unpack there and
Yeah.
they had a lot to unpack there, but that's still kind of something that I have, in the back of my mind, that I am with this person who is more attracted to, because I've always been a masculine guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
because that's how I was like raised. Like, you're a man, you do man things.
Yeah.
So it's
do
like
your
when
job.
when
manliness.
I finally took this cute ass photo, and sent it, I was like, this is kind of hot. And they're like, it looks like a girl took that. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah, and
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm also a great photographer.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Quinn, because I think there can be policing that happens of by men, by women. So, of by men,
BY women?
BY women. Yeah.
BY women.
Yeah.
And we don't really talk about that much, but I was curious how you may have experienced that, Alex.
Yeah,
Or
I
if
don't
you have.
know if I have exactly, but I mean, the thing that was coming to mind when you were talking was just the sense of like it being very important, feeling very important to be the like holder of desire, and that sort of being like a masculine coded thing, and like that being the sense of like this is my value in relationships, I guess in straight relationships or relationships with women, and so yeah, there is a sense of like. I don't think I would blame any of my partners or any like buddy for this more than I would blame myself, but it is hard to like just ask to be in kind of like a different role, regardless of who your partner is, like just a less masculine role.
Yeah. And I think, it made for good conversation because my partner didn't want me to not feel hot, not feel pretty, but my it's nice knowing, what my partner is attracted to. So, and I think that kind of goes into being poly. I have other partners that are attracted to that.
Yeah. I was going to ask that. Like, do you feel like you have like succeeded in finding people who appreciate like that side of yourself more?
Yes. And I think even the partner at the time that didn't has learned to appreciate that side of myself, because she didn't know that I was like that. And at the time, I don't think I even really knew. So it was kind of growing that together as well.
Yeah.
So
It gets into really interesting territory about what is innate, authentic desire, taste, and expression, and what is learned. And we were talking about this a little bit. I think misogyny can be so insidious that it will show up in ways that surprise us. And so the idea that anything that is feminine coded or thought to be more like womanly is undesirable in a man, for example. I think that can be an expression of misogyny and not an internalized misogyny on the part of women, and not necessarily a pure excavation of desire. I'm not saying that's always the case, but I'm just proposing that can be at work in an unexamined way.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I would pause like a little bit around like too much of the framing about the struggles of being a bi man being like the responsibility or fault of women, probably, or being policed by women. I mean, I think that does happen, but I think it's policed by, the sources of internalized homophobia that we experience are
As people and in a society.
Yeah, are probably not that much of that is coming from women. At least my experience of it was most of it is coming from other men and like, in youth and
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to say that gender policing is happening all around us and inside of us.
Yes.
And that gender policing, I experience it as a bi woman where I feel self-conscious about being too masculine, or being undesirable to men because I'm too masc. And that can even take the form of not the way I look, but I'm too much of a leader, or I talk too much, or I like talk about politics too much. And that these are, this is the kind of policing. It happens on such a subtle level. And I'm like, men might not like me because of that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be in charge. Why? Yeah, why are you telling me what to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that gender policing can be so strict and can, you are inundated with it from such an early age that sometimes it's happening and you don't even surface it or name it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting that we're speaking to like the gender expression elements of, in theory, those are sort of like different things, your gender expression and your sexuality, but certainly they're like kind of all jumbled together in the way that policing happens. And like the homophobic policing that like young men experience, a lot of it is about not being too feminine or like a sissy or whatever. So it's
also just like the scripting in intimate spaces between like cis men and women or men and women more generally, that is really intense too. And I think it can be hard to just pause and examine like trying on a different role and, trying different expressions of your sexuality and being like, we can try stuff and maybe we like it and maybe we don't. And that's fine, but that scripting is very strong, I think, especially in sexual expression.
Okay, I have a question that's coming to mind for you, Quinn, which is just like about, as a polyamorous person, like dating multiple people, that describes me as well, but I haven't really gotten very far in like dating men without a woman being somehow involved.
Part of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I think I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since you hit me up to do the podcast, because I was like, oh, that's probably going to be, a question like, hey, you say you're bisexual. Where's your boyfriend?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I was getting at. Yes.
Yeah.
Show us the receipts.
Yes, exactly. And I think, let me think about that real quick.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I have the same feeling of like, oh, like should I be doing this more? Like, how do I get more into it?
And I've tried. Have you downloaded Grindr yet?
I have not.
It is insane.
Yeah.
So I was like very interested, and I was like, I got on this app, and this app is set up in a way like I've used Tinder, I've used Field, I've used Hinge. This app is set up to like no matter what, you can see who is close to you up to like 50 feet. Like it's like it's everything. And men are animals. We are animals. I'm in the Walmart and I get a message from someone 50 feet away from me being like, come to the bathroom, I'm installed too. And I'm like, boys trying to get it. And you know what? I appreciate that, but not for me. I'm a lover boy. So it's like, I put a lot of work into this. Like I made an account, I was like, hey, let's go get some tea. Let's go on a hike. Let's talk. And everyone's like, show me your butthole right now. And I was like, damn, this is what women feel like.
I feel like we're working on our Walmart sponsorship right now.
Yes.
Hey, Walmart.
Stall too.
Yeah, stall too. I've done a lot of thinking, and I am, when it comes to having a relationship, I really do like feminine energy. And I think for the longest time, I thought that is a woman. And, I've learned that it's not. I am sexually attracted to almost anybody. Like there's a lot more that I'm attracted to than people that I'm not attracted to. But I've found that relationships, that are deep and meaningful to me, that are also sexual, end up being with a more feminine energy. And I think, I have been looking, and if it happens, it happens, and I would be happy to have that. And that could also change. I could end up finding a very masculine man that I fall in love with.
Yeah. I mean, that's the experience of having your understanding of your sexuality change. It means that you're also like, this could continue to change.
Correct.
And like in the timelines that we're talking about of like a few years of sort of like being out and self-identifying as bi, you don't know where that's really going to go. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that kind of in a broader cultural way?
Yeah.
It seems most common that the bi men I meet will say, I like hook up sexually with men, but I have emotional, romantic relationships with women. And I'm hearing you all say that like this can change and everything is fluid. But if we were examining some of these like scripts that might be at work on us that we're not aware of sometimes, what do you think might be going on there? Why would that be more the case for bi men? As a bi woman, I would not say that is the case,
Yeah.
that it's not like bi women are like, oh, I hook up with women, but I only have relationships with men. So I'm just curious what you think might be happening.
And I bet if you heard a woman say that, you'd be like, that sounds like something that somebody who's very early in their bisexual journey would say, and that it will perhaps change.
And just
Right?
for the record, I would also be like, okay.
Okay.
No, but do you think that that's true?
I'm not.
That it's like a
Yeah.
sort of like, it sounds, not to knock anybody who like feels this way strongly, but it sounds like a sort of like beginning stages, like, of understanding your
Maybe. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure. That's kind of why I opened it up for
I
discussion.
think, I have a partner that is also bisexual and leans, I feel like we kind of mirror each other, where I am into the feminine energy and she is into masculine energy more. And they've been bisexual for 4 or 5 years and have not, they have went on dates with women, but just maybe haven't found the energy that they're looking for. And I feel like, I haven't been bisexual that long, but I feel like I'm in a very similar situation. That's really all I have on that one. I'll keep thinking.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, like, do we not have, and this will get me into talking about how bisexual men are having a moment, it feels like. But
Yeah.
I wonder if it's partly we don't have modeling. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking about it. Is it's like, how much do we actually see men being intimate, emotionally intimate with each other? How much
Yeah.
modeling have you all had in your own lives?
Yeah.
How much does it feel like it would be really uncharted territory for you? And again, there's a tendency to move towards the thing that you've experienced and is culturally reinforced. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that
I haven't seen it a lot.
No. Yeah, and for how many men that I know who are like, I'm bi or I'm pan and poly, and I date women and I've dated some non-binary people.
Yeah.
I know zero where those non-binary people weren't AFAB, and I know zero where, they've dated women and dated men.
I'd say I'm probably in that.
Yeah.
I'm in
So
the same realm.
it's not happening a lot.
Correct.
For sure.
not where I'm at, like not in the circles that I'm in. It doesn't feel like it's happening
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes me want to talk about the cultural moment of
Yes.
bisexual men.
Yes.
Everybody knows
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. I feel like I should have like the little
I'm coming to the cottage.
Yes.
button.
Hollander. Yes. Such a hot accent too.
Yeah.
He's not Russian.
Yes, and have you seen like the Russian people have been like, this guy is amazing.
Yes.
He sounds like he was Russian and learned English.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I know. So for anybody who's been living under a rock and doesn't know what we're talking about, Quinn, what are we talking about?
The HBO show he did Rivalry,
That's right.
and it is hot.
It is quite heated.
It is.
And it's about two closeted hockey players who start hooking up in a emotional romantic way, and then eventually fall in love and have to make a decision about whether or not to be public.
This happens over like a 10 to 15 year period, and they stay closed the entire time and stay hidden. And it was cool as a man seeing two men deal with that. Starting to feel emotions, having to hide.
And at least for one of them, their identity changing. Like, I don't think that he, what's his name?
Yeah.
Hollander is like,
Hollander
he doesn't
didn't
identify
know.
as gay at all, or doesn't know that
And
he's
then
gay at the beginning, probably.
Ilya, I feel like he had a pretty good grasp that he was bisexual.
Yeah.
So.
There was so many of us were rooting for Ilya to be bi. And I don't know if that was like happening in any of the sort of like circles that you're in or the algorithms that you're a part of. But I was so hoping for him to be bi.
Like, you wanted, almost from the perspective of the show, for it not to be that he's just like, thinks he's bi and he's actually just gay, to like, it felt like a nice visibility moment to be like, no, he's bi. He loves this man, and this is all centered on like his love in this relationship with this man, but he continues to be bi throughout that.
Yeah,
like,
and that
long
takes us
period.
back to kind of what you were saying, Sarah, is that's something we don't see.
And I think that's why this has been such a hit. So
Yeah.
this is the kind of, I think, was it Esther Perel? There's a clip of Esther Perel talking about why this has been such a phenomenon. She's like a well-renowned relationship therapist, couples therapist. And she was saying that there's a lot of wish fulfillment in it, like cultural wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
For instance, that emotionality between men will be met with kindness instead of rejection. That when you like come out to your parents, instead of being shunned, you'll be drawn in. That when you come out to a community, they will celebrate you. And she says, like, we're playing with the tension that might not be the case, because that's what we all experience and is policing all of us. But that the show was profoundly kind, because while it
They
played
did
with
so
that
good.
tension, every single reveal was people accepting them and accepting who they were and meeting them with kindness.
Yeah. Spoilers are good.
I think
figured.
it's fine.
I think, yeah,
this is gonna be out
if
in
you
2
haven't
weeks.
watched this show
It's
yet,
been long
I can't
enough.
help
Okay,
you.
just pause the podcast, go and watch the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
only like 7 hours or something.
Yeah,
Come back.
that's what I think when you were like, "Hey, here's your homework." I didn't realize it was only 6 episodes. I was like, "Oh, I got this." I watched the last episode on Sunday, and I think I remember. So it's the whole thing where Shane's dad shows up, sees it, and then leaves.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah.
My heart was pounding.
He's gonna be pissed, and then he just drives off, and then they go home, and like going from like what we saw to where it was such a good acting and scene and the emotions, because as a viewer you're sitting there like the parents are upset at Shane,
Yeah.
but and then you watch it and you realize that the parents were upset that Shane didn't feel comfortable with them,
They're like,
which
hurt
is
by
the
that,
right feeling to feel as parent, but it's like we're conditioned to go, they're going to get mad at Shane. They're not going to understand why he's doing that, instead of looking at themselves. And that was so cool to watch that.
And the part where she apologizes to him was like one of the most touching parts.
Yes,
I feel like.
that's when it clicked for me. I was like, she's mad at herself for not being that support for Shane, and not like Shane never felt comfortable to just tell her.
That was really the two things that I think touched me the most, and when I was crying the most. I was definitely crying a couple of times.
I didn't cry because I'm a real man.
Right. Thank you, Alex.
I just got really hard at the sex scenes.
Was definitely the part when Shane's dad ran away. I was so scared. I was just so scared he was going to be rejected by his parents, and all of his fears would be realized, because for many of us in the queer community, that has been our experience, that we have been rejected by our parents in some way, shape, or form because of our queerness. And so I was just like, of course, this is going to be the story that is repeated, because it's the one we know the most of. And when it didn't happen, I cried even harder because I was like, oh, it could just not be that way. Like parents could act like this instead.
It's crazy what love can do to you.
Right.
You're like, oh.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like a cultural kind of redemption arc. Yeah.
I also just think I find it reassuring, soothing, healing, hot, and meaningful to see men be intimate with each other.
Yeah,
like
hot for sure.
I cannot tell you all how much, and so many women watched this show.
Yeah,
right?
people
It was written by a woman.
They're calling it the bi girl scream.
Yes.
You see two men, you're like,
It's incredible. I want to hear you all reflect on this, because I don't actually know why it hits the way it hits, but it's like the thing you didn't know you were yearning for, that you were, which is to see two men be kind and intimate and close with each other.
Yeah.
And how that makes me feel better, safer, sexier. What's up?
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this too, because it's like, I think, there's not a lot of, shows, and maybe there is, and I am just not well informed, where this happens with women too. And I think there is this societal problem where, guys watch girl on girl porn because, of this misogynistic view. And, you know, the hierarchy and men and blah 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 blah.
And the
it's
male gaze and
the
like
male gaze.
women's sexuality
And-
is here to be consumed
And
by men.
I remember someone telling me about the male gaze and being like, "Why do you watch that?" And I'm like, "I watch it because it's hot. I love women." You know, and then when I'm finally watching, you know, this He Did Rivalry and not just gay porn on Pornhub, you know, I'm like, this is just as hot to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was the part I wanted to come back to, is the sex.
Yes.
Because I think that's a big deal too. Like what you're talking about, for sure, in the emotional arc is, although like maybe like a little bit, I don't know if this is cynical, but my take on that was also a little bit like, people are just hungry for a romance like that. And when it's a straight romance, I feel like at least in our sort of subculture, everybody's kind of like, there's a
We're
little
like, well,
eye
it's
roll.
doomed.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the part where you think everything's
Right.
going to be okay,
You're
but we
like-
all know it's not.
Yeah.
So end
Or
the
you're
show
like,
now.
just like, okay, Emily Bronte,
Yeah.
real cutting edge shit you got there. But
Yeah.
it being two men like allowed us to just be a little bit more like,
have a
this
happy
is beautiful
story.
and so
Yes.
sweet. And there's a built-in like sort of conflict. So
Well, and that is heterofatalism. So that's something we've talked about on this show.
Yeah, can you explain that to
I
me?
sure can.
Yeah.
Thank you
I'm
for
glad you asked.
asking, Quinn.
Yes, yeah.
To keep him around. Just to-
Jessica, maybe you remember the academic who coined that term. She was one of the first people who ran a masculine studies program out of a university in Texas.
Oh yeah, we talked about it on an
We
episode at some point.
Talked about her on an episode, and I'm forgetting her name, but it'll come to me. Thank you. She did a survey of a bunch of young people in her college community, university community, and came up with this term heterofatalism, which was something that she was identifying as potentially generational, where especially women feel like hetero relationships are doomed for unhappiness, and that there's like parts of it in the beginning that might feel good.
Yeah.
And there are things that you endure so that you can have what a hetero marriage might give you, but that there is no real expectation of emotional satisfaction or happiness inside that. And that's called heterofatalism,
Yeah, and
essentially.
while you were talking about that, that speaks to, you know, something I've read that like when heterosexual people get married and get a divorce, most of the time the woman ends up happier after the divorce. And I think that goes kind of hand in hand with what you were just saying.
Speaking of algorithms, one of the ones that I'm on is just like they'll do these interviews with women who've lived well into their 90s or like into their early hundreds. And they'll be like, what are your regrets? What would you do differently? And they're always like, I wouldn't have gotten married.
Yes.
And that's because it is proven to be true that it is bad for women to be married to men.
Yep. And speaking of the algorithm, I just saw a video yesterday on TikTok where they were asking this 90-year-old guy, like, how were you married to a woman for so long? He was like, I went deaf. I'm like, damn, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you and I are on very different algorithms.
We are.
I like the idea that the woman I saw was actually married to that man, right?
Okay,
She's
yeah.
like, see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
That guy's an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was the asshole in my algorithm, but yeah, I was just seeing stuff like that. It's like you see a lot of those comments. I think it's always just like poking fun. Maybe they're not fun sometimes. Comments of like, you know, we made it work because, you know, it's what society does. You know, you put us in a little box, we buy a house, we have kids, you know, and we stay together no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter what.
So yeah, maybe the flip side of heterofatalism or the salve is homo-optimism.
Homo.
And maybe that's what's happening
Homo-opt-
in
Yes, please.
Yes.
Heated Rivalry. But back to the sex part
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
that I
Sorry,
want to talk
Alex,
about,
yeah.
because I felt like that was a big deal. And this, again, might be like you were saying, Quinn, like me being sort of in my like box a little bit. Like, obviously, there's a lot of media that, you know, of all types that like explores men's sexual relationships with each other. It's not like you can't find that. But I don't think I've ever really seen it like presented, or maybe the fact that like this show that is like a phenomenon is like depicting it pretty, it's not avoiding it. And I saw a little thing that was like that the show originally was supposed to be developed by like a big American TV streamer, and that they were giving them notes that they like couldn't have any it couldn't be that explicit, and there was no kissing until episode 5.
Oh.
So they were really trying to like tone that down. And I just think it's like amazing that they toned it up the way that they did. I mean, it's not like as explicit as porn, but you know, it's all somehow manages to be.
It's close.
And maybe there's something that a way that it does somehow manage to be like kind of like PG-13 rated in the way that like they don't like you never see their dicks, right?
Yeah, which, you know, is a little unfortunate, but I understand. I think there are a lot of like women out there like, this is so amazing because I didn't have to see a dick.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, I know that I've talked to men and male partners who sometimes are frustrated that all the sexual attention on their bodies is always on their dicks.
Yes.
And that they don't ever like get
Interesting.
to experience sensuality or sexuality or sensation
I'm like, yeah.
outside of their dicks.
Men got
Right.
curves too, you know?
Mhm.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that
Yeah.
in the show. But I guess there's something about how they did that and that it put like sort of romantic gay sex in front of people in a way that it hadn't really been put in front of me before. I remember like we saw an indie movie at like SIFF or something about 10 or 12 years ago. I don't know if you remember this at all,
Must
but
have made an impression, Alex.
it did make an impression because it was the first time that I saw a non-pornographic like expression of gay sex.
Was it wasn't Call Me by Your Name?
No.
Call Me by My Name, rather.
No. It was before that. It was called like it was like two guys in London having like a kind of loving tryst. I'll be able to dig it up from the back of my brain. Anyway, point being, when I saw that, it made an impression on me because you just don't see that very much. And I think like part of the internalized homophobia that I've experienced comes from the idea that like, make sure that you don't see that. You know, if you do, what's going to happen? Like, and the fear of it is probably like that you're going to realize that you're gay. Like the exposure to any kind of like gay content is just going to sort of like prove that you're gay, that you're looking at it, make you gay. And it's like wild that in my like adolescence and, you know, up until like very recently, I had like just studiously avoided ever looking at gay porn.
Yeah.
And like, why and how did that? I mean, I guess it is kind of true that probably if I'd looked at gay porn, it would have made me more gay.
Yeah, I was waiting for that penny to drop. I was like, yeah.
So that's what, I guess that's where the like regulation comes in, like, or the like sort of control comes in. So I guess my point was just like this show, like putting that forward in the ways that it did inside of like a really like wonderful story and like a really compelling, you know, fantastic show was like doing a lot of work that I feel like I'm going to benefit from in like out in the world in like kinky sex party spaces that I found to be like very passively homophobic. Like I was in a situation where I had somebody say to me something along the lines of like, you know, I don't want to do things with men. This was like a person who was ostensibly bi and who I had like hooked up with and being like, I don't want to do things with men in these spaces because I'm afraid it'll make people uncomfortable.
Wow.
And these are spaces where
Wow.
all the women are presumed to be bi
Jeez.
to some degree or another. And that happens all the time. And like, you know, I don't want to put that in direct quotes, but that's what I will say. That's what I took away from it.
Yeah.
And like, that just makes me be like, go watch Heated Rivalry and realize that it's hot. It's not such a big fucking deal. And like, get over. Let's all just get over
like,
ourselves.
at face value, the way I took that is like they were looking out for the feelings of homophobia.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
And like, maybe if we did that more in front of people, then more people would realize what their actual sexuality is, or at least just get more comfortable with it, which they fucking should.
I would say that it's not just looking out for the feelings of homophobia, but it's defending like toxic masculinity and patriarchy. Because I'm sitting over here being like, okay, we are comfortable with watching women be intimate with women emotionally and physically. We are comfortable with watching women be intimate with men emotionally and physically. So there's just one pairing on the gender binary that we have no tolerance for.
Yeah.
And so it's not just homophobia. right? It's also that we have to have masculinity defined in this. It's so fucking fragile. Masculinity is so fragile that it has to be defined and protected in this specific way. Otherwise, it fucking falls apart. And I think that is patriarchy and that is toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
That it's like no masculinity exists unless it's exactly expressed this one way. And I think that's why women are craving seeing that intimacy between men, because I think it does a lot to attack and dismantle the toxic masculinity that is currently destroying us.
Yeah. And I think that's great. There's a reason, this TV show is hitting so hard because it's putting the love and the sex together. Like for me, I was pretty young when I watched it, the Heath Ledger movie.
Oh, Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain.
That had kissing in it, and
Yeah.
then, but it didn't really I don't remember it getting too.
There's one sex scene in that movie made a big impression
Speaking
on
of
me, too.
tense.
I was like, maybe I'm a gay
It did.
man.
Maybe I'm a gay man. And then
Just
more.
really the
Well,
Cowboys.
you know what? We live in a free society. You could perhaps one day
do what you want.
But there's a sex scene in a tent. I'm just
Okay, yes. And then the more recently, did you guys watch The Last of Us?
Yes.
The episode, like the third episode, where it's the character.
Oh, yeah. The guy from...
That one was just the emotional relationship.
Yes.
There was no intimacy.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
But that made me cry like a little.
It's like the best episode. It was like just a little sub-arc,
of the entire. Yeah, it was just them the entire time of like falling in love, and I was like, "This is awesome," and I would love something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that hit
good
a lot
stuff.
of people. And then we have He Did Rivalry that has that and butts.
Yeah.
And but
And butts.
They
And
should have
bam!
had the butts the whole time.
Yes.
More butts.
More butts.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think more butts will allow more men to be like more free in understanding their own sexuality. And that will be good for...
Yeah. And I think this is a good segue to what we were talking about on the couch earlier of what your friend said of I was having threesomes before I started kind of swinging, and all my threesomes were with two guys and a girl, and I was always very comfortable with, thighs touching him, I was never really doing anything sexual to him, but we were both naked on a bed, there's obviously we're going to run into each other.
Right.
And when I started
If your force shields are turned off, I
yes,
guess.
boing boing. When I started swinging, I was running into these couples that made it just feel like it was a very transactional process of like, here is my wife, I will take your wife, do not touch me, do not look at me, and we can give each other a high five when we're done. I was like, fuck off. Like, that does not sound fun. So, like, I never ended up, doing anything with those type of people because it was just like, a lot of this was before I realized I was bisexual, but it's still like that stuff gave me the ick. Like, I was like, you're going to tell me that I can have sex with your wife, but our thighs can't touch.
Yeah. It feels, I've had the same experience, and it feels like dehumanizing.
It does.
It feels shitty.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I can relate. And I think that it shows up in a slightly different way when I've had threesomes with other women and a man. Where
Any names?
names.
There's some other. Yeah.
But where it's like the women are hot for me when the man is in the room watching, or when there's like the male gaze is there, and then it turns off when the man isn't in the room or his desire isn't directly implicated.
Heteroflexible women.
Yeah. And it really, like, there is a pain in that it should have a name, because as I was listening to you talk, I could feel it like coming up in my chest, and like, women who it's like, after we've been intimate with each other and they've just been like, I just don't like the way women taste and smell, but I do it because I think it's hot. And you're like, oh my God, whoa, why did you just say that to me? We have literally like been together,
Yeah. Okay.
So it like is,
Yeah.
it pinches.
There's the German
Pinches
word
is sharp.
that we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that dehumanizing feeling where you like have been sort of used or objectified, or like your desire has been like compartmentalized in this really weird way. And you're like, oh, wait, but that's that's not me.
I think that's what I was kind of that's why I used the word like transactional. They're kind of doing that, play with you as a transactional thing and not really looking at you as a human.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, somebody who you've experienced some intimacy with.
Mm-hmm.
So like being,
or at least what you thought was intimacy.
Right.
Which
What I was
be
experiencing is intimacy.
Mhm.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and like what I found in my relatively small experience, like when I have sex with somebody, and using that term like broadly, when I'm in a sexual situation with somebody, like kind of regardless of how much we physically interact, I feel closer to them and I feel like I care about them, like, both as a result of that, and maybe I only want to do that with people who I have potential to feel that way about. So then when you hit that wall, that sort of like no homo wall or whatever, it hurts a lot because you're like, oh, we like did all this stuff together, this very like vulnerable, intimate stuff together, and then you're kind of like,
for me, it takes me back to like, small town Indiana. Like that's how everyone feels. Like no homo was like what you said before you gave your friend a high five. You give him a high five, you're like, no homo though. Like it was a joke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that we should make hella homo the new caveat.
Hella homo.
That's my new high five.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Especially at like sporting events, like when we hug after the Seahawks like win the championship,
Yes.
we're like, I want to be clear, this is a very gay hug
This
that we're
is
having
the
right
gayest
now.
hug that I want to have
Everything that happened
today.
on the field was fucking gay, and
I just wanted the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl so I could see men gay hug each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Smack the booties, watch it jiggle.
yeah.
So I wanted to, there's one other thing I want to talk about. We've touched on like some of the bi erasure. We've talked a little bit about your stories and also what it feels like to be in swinger poly spaces as bi men. We've talked about the cultural moment. I wanted to ask about like biphobia in particular, and if you've had the experience of people being like negative or sort of phobic of biness. And I asked that, Alex, because you were sharing about your sister's boyfriend when you were a kid, and that really like stuck with me because I thought of your parents as being people who were like friends with a lot of gay people. So it was interesting that they had that reaction.
Yeah, should I just put my parents on blast? My sister had a boyfriend when I was in high school, and he was like really cool. He had an apartment by Seattle Central. He was a little older than her, so he was over 21, and he let us party at his house, and he bought us beer. I remember one time him carrying just like a giant case of 40s from the corner store back to his apartment with us, and I was like, this is fucking great. Yeah. And he was also very nice. And he was bi, like out as bi, and I don't know what that exactly looked like or meant, but my parents were like very like cautious and like anti, because basically they were like, he's going to give you AIDS. That was like the subtext, I think.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess a little bit of plausible deniability there for them, but like, that homophobia was. So I think the biphobia that I've experienced or like I've witnessed is mostly just homophobia. Yeah. I don't think it's like a separate thing necessarily.
I think I would agree. I think because I didn't talk about it growing up and people didn't know that I was bisexual, I don't feel like I was looking to see it, or maybe understanding that it was happening. But and not really to put my parents on blast, but like my parents, produced 4 bisexual kids.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I got theories about that. Okay.
I have background questions too. Like, what are they all? You have all sisters?
I'm the oldest of 4, and I have 2 younger brothers and a youngest sister.
So they produced 3 bisexual male
Correct.
kids? Wow.
Yeah.
Something about that corn.
It's got to be the
Indiana.
corn. Yes. We use what we got, you know?
Yeah,
But yeah,
what-
it's been fun. We're all super the siblings. We are all very close and we're all very open with each other. Like I'll never forget when my little sister, she's 8 years younger than me. She called me when her and her partner had their first threesome to tell me because she knew I was going to be excited and supportive of that.
Oh,
Oh, I
I'm
love
like,
that.
go fuck.
Yeah.
It's fun.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean that I love hearing you say that in part too because I think we have this sometimes like red state, blue state, like conservative binary in our minds, and like I'm always coming back to like there are things about this culture, like Seattle, growing up in Seattle, that were like very socially conservative in this way. Like I can't imagine my family was like so much more repressed than what you're describing there. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
I think I got pretty lucky with my parents. I think my mom maybe had a little bit of trouble like coming to terms of it. And she's very good at like saying exactly what's on her mind without maybe thinking sometimes, which can be a little scary, you know, as a kid and as like a younger adult. Now I'm like, you're allowed to say exactly what you want, mom. I can too, though. So be careful.
You're like, I learned from the best.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Yep. I can be direct
Yeah.
because of my mom. It's a superpower, I think, sometimes.
I'm just curious. An experience that I have had is dating as a bi woman that
Yes.
gay women are skeptical of me, especially because I'm married to a man.
Yeah. From my experience, I feel like you've heard the term gold star lesbian.
I have.
There's no such thing as a gold star gay. Like,
Right.
I've never heard anyone talk about that, where it's just like, I feel like in our society, we have these like lesbian women that are like, I will never have sex with a man. Like that makes me better. And maybe that's how I'm personally viewing it. I've never seen that of like a guy being like, they're like, I just don't like women. They're like my best friends, but like, I don't know what's going on down there and I don't want to know. You know what I mean? I've never had a guy be like, I'm proud that I've never had sex with a woman. But I have met women that are like that.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
that's around, right? I mean,
Yes.
and it
That's
speaks
not
to
an
like what
absolute.
communities that we're a part of.
Correct.
But I just am curious because I think the subtext and sometimes the overt text is you're always going to prioritize me as a bi woman. I'm always going to prioritize being with men over being with women. And so I'm just curious if there's like that same concern
Yeah.
or suspicion.
Right. The two kinds of bi erasure are different, and the bi female erasure is the presumption that you're actually straight, and the bi male erasure is the presumption that you're 100% gay.
Yeah, I
And
think
like,
that's true.
You're on the way to that,
Yeah, I think so.
but you're just not there yet. Yeah.
Because can
And that's
I
probably
just-
why those men on Grindr don't care, because they're like a little more confidently like, once you get a little taste of this, you're not turning back. However, it did show up in Heated Rivalry, right? Like one of the
It
most
did.
intense pieces was where Ilya's like saying that maybe he's just going to marry Svetlana, what it seems like is kind of his platonic.
Oh, yeah.
No,
you
they
know,
have
fear.
sex.
Do they have sex?
They have
Okay.
sex, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't show it at
And
all,
Shane
so.
was like, please, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And that's like the time that he like is the most like hurt and is the most
being
like
vulnerable and telling
yeah,
them,
and like is kind of the most like assertive.
Yeah, that's
Like, yeah.
interesting. We'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give another shout out to misogyny here.
Yeah.
Because do we have a sound effect for that too? I want a sound effect for I'm coming to the cottage. And I want a sound effect for when I'm shouting out misogyny. There I think there is just this assumption that
Yeah.
all sexual attention and desire and everything is going to always gravitate towards men. Whether that's like by men or by women, that the gravitational pull of the penis is so strong that everyone sort of like lives in its thrall.
Yeah. And that shows up in our fears as well. Like I definitely have been finding more like the more queer I feel and the more relationships I have with men, the less fear I have about men interacting with women that I'm in relationships with.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
it does.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like if you think that men are like the most important, the most powerful, and the least vulnerable, then they are like kind of scary.
Threatening.
And it's like, I don't want that guy fucking my wife or my girlfriend, like who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He's like potentially a horrifying exploitative demon, or who knows what lies there. And then when you like get to know men more intimately, then you're like, probably not.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's this like I love that you said that. You know, when you finally meet somebody, it kind of takes away a lot of those, like, because our brains are against us, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I think I always assume, like, you know, if my partner's going on a date or something like that, I'm like, they're gonna fall in love.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get
Yeah.
replaced.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
And sometimes just like,
Or he's going to murder her. One of
yeah.
those two
Oh
things,
yeah. I'm like, location, please.
Yeah.
Location, please. Are you alive? But I think for me, a lot of the time, meeting that person just dissolves a lot of that. I'm like, oh, they're a human, just like me. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah, and they might be kind of hot. We might.
Most of the time they are.
Yeah. I'm like, you can take her out, but I need a kiss first.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything that we didn't cover that the two of you want to make sure that we talk about? I know.
Shuffling my papers over.
Yeah. You all asked me to excavate this to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And
Gently probing.
the gentle probing.
I like being probed. So
How'd I do, Quinn?
wonderful.
Okay, great.
So gentle,
It was gentle.
but assertive.
Gentle and confident.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going
exactly.
for.
Maybe you are a bi man. No, this has been great. I really appreciate your time and honesty and vulnerability with everything.
It feels good to do
amazing.
it. So that's why I was excited to come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Quinn. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, Jessica.
Well, that was a wonderful conversation that we had with Quinn. I'm so appreciative of him for joining us and being so vulnerable, and to you, Sarah, for asking us so many great questions to help us like open up a little bit about that experience.
And I'd like to thank Heated Rivalry for creating exactly the right milieu for that conversation.
Really opened us up as well. And thank you for listening to Mistakes Were Made. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. And in the meantime, follow us on Instagram at MistakesCast, and check out the show notes to this episode to register for the local intentional non-monogamy workshop that we're holding in Seattle on March 21st.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.